Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Strategy Guide Reviews. My name is Blake Grunman, and this week I'm here with a brand new guide review for Mega Man 11. Look at this sexy beast of a guide. Oh, it is amazing. Now, before we dive too much into the guide, one thing I did want to note is that it comes with this amazing lithograph. You can see it first and foremost right here. Oh, God, look at that sexy beast. Oh, it's so beautiful. This is something that I will be looking to find some way to hang up on my wall. I really like it. But I did want to get into the guide. So, as you can see here, hardcover guide, the collector's edition, 30 years, celebrating 30 years of Mega Man. Now, the interesting thing about this guide is that when you're looking at it, actually, you'd be kind of, when you look at it, you'd go, well, how did they manage to fit a full guide into, a Mega Man 11? How can they get a 300-page guide out of it? That seems like a fair question because, to be quite honest with you, Mega Man games, when it comes to strategy, you're kind of, you get what you get. And so there isn't really a whole lot in the way of, hey, don't suck, if we're being completely blunt. But they have done an amazing job making this guide something that is not only something that's very helpful for people who are fans of the series and are actually wanting to get better at it, but it's also this really cool historical note. So I just want to dive right into it. First off, you'll see this gorgeous hardcover. It is just this nice matted finish. It's kind of hard. You can't really see it on the video, but you can see that there's like this multicolored grid going on in the background. You think you can see the light reflecting off it there, which is pretty cool. But then you also have this awesome print of Mega Man there on the back. One thing that they've done a fantastic job with in this guide is making good use of all the pictures. Lots of big, full-page pictures. But another thing that I do want to note is, again, amazing art that they have going on here. It's really cool stuff. But one thing that really jumped out at me right off the bat is, normally like with your hardcover, you're going to have a first page that's going to have like a pretty heavy stock. And then after that, your pages are a little flimsier. That is not the case here. This is a very thick stock of paper. It is like, it's got a really cool, nice glossy finish. It just feels good. It feels like a high quality book. So I'll kind of jump right into it right off the bat here. And so as you are familiar with any Mega Man series, you're going to have just kind of the general walkthrough of, hey, here are all the characters. Just the general gist of things that you've been familiar with for a long time. So once again, good use of the full page images. And they do a lot of this. They do a lot of these big full page, amazingly drawn pieces of art. Like, they look like concept art. They really do. And it's really cool. Now, they don't just focus on the characters. One thing that they do is, and this is something with the Mega Man 11 especially, is you can go back to the main hub world and you can buy different pieces of gear. And so the price of the gear changes depending upon different circumstances. So you see grids right off the bat of, hey, here are all the different items that you can purchase. And here's their cost depending upon the different scenarios. And so these are purchased using the screws that you capture in game. And so they do a good job of kind of explaining these new concepts, things that you didn't really see a whole lot of in prior Mega Man games. And then you can also see the different weapons. Now, if you look on the far side of the screen, the side where you see where my hand is, over here they have a breakdown of all of the different weapons. And with all of the different weapons, you can see what is effective against what other types of weapons. See what will cause a guard break, what will cause a guard disable, what will freeze, shock, adhere to different people. And so you can kind of use this to map out, hey, here's the best weapons to use under this scenario, which is a really nice little thing to draw heavy attention to early on. Now, when you're actually getting into the guide body, what you'll see is they lead off every section with an image of, hey, here's your main boss that you're going to be going up against. Here's Blockman. And then they start the general walkthrough of the game. And what you'll see is, all right, so here are all the specific enemies that are unique to this world. And they do this in every single stage. So you're going to get an idea of, hey, here's what I'm going to be up against. Here's how to take them down. Just kind of the general stuff, which, if we're being honest, it's Mega Man. What do? You shoot them. It's not, again, like I said before, it's not really rocket science. Now, one thing I did like is you'll see that there's a lot of these multi-connected images that sit there and they span a lot of the page. And so this is the actual layout of each stage as you walk through it. And then they will have little call outs for different things that you need to be aware of. Like, hey, under certain scenarios, this is the best way to clear out this whole area. Perfect example right here. You see all of these different rocks. If you use a charged blast, you can blow through all of them. That sort of a thing. Just generalized information that will make your life easier as you're playing through the game. Now, another example of ones that are very helpful are these spanned images where you can see it kind of goes across a lot of the different pages. And what I like is, as you're looking at it, when you're playing in these games, a lot of times you're going free fall. You're just falling through the air and you can't really see. So if you're looking at this, you have a good idea of where things are as the page is scrolling, and it kind of helps you as you're trying to burn through it quickly. And speaking of burning through things, you can see here's the Pyroman level, which is one of my favorites. I'm going to say favorites with a question mark because it sucks. It's the worst. It's really, really hard to play through. And I mean, honestly, as I was playing through it, this was the thing that challenged me the most. However, you have these stages that are these long spanning stages where you're being chased by things. And so as you're trying to work your way through the level, you have different obstacles that'll put themselves in your way. Well, this, you're able to kind of take a step back and see what's coming. So you can plan the way you're going to make it through the mission. Hey, here's where I'm going to use my double gear in order to slow down time, in order to try to navigate through the environments, things like that. And so it was very helpful in that respect. Now, the other thing that you'll see that it does is there are mini bosses as well. So the mini bosses, the interesting thing about that is that sometimes you will encounter mini bosses more than once. They'll have different tactics when you face them different times. So this does a good job of calling out, hey, the first time around, this is what you're going to be facing. Second time around, this will be the way that you face them. However, when you get into the boss battles, that's where things get a little funkier, because you will see, all right, so here's how you beat this character. And it does a decent job of explaining, hey, here's how you will beat this person. The problem is that it assumes that you're playing the game in their recommended order. So anybody who's played a Mega Man game before knows that there is, quote unquote, a correct order for every stage. Or, you take this boss's power to challenge the next boss. Well, I played the game out of order. When I was reviewing it, I didn't know what the order was. So I just made assumptions. And if it were me playing through this game for the first time and I didn't know what order to play in, it's just assuming that you're following the order that's in the guide. And so if you took anything out of sequence, you're hosed, because it's going to say, hey, if you're going against Torchman, you want to use the ice power here. What if I didn't do the ice power? It doesn't do a good job of trying to explain to you what you need to do in order to beat these bosses when you don't have the power that they're assuming that you would have. So that was kind of a downer for me, which I didn't really much care for. But I mean, aside from that, the walkthrough itself was really well done. It was very detailed, and it gave you a good idea of what you would be facing at the different difficulty levels too. See, that was the other thing. There's, I believe, 4 difficulty levels in this version of Mega Man. And just so you know, there's no shame in playing it on casual. In the review guide, that's literally what they said. They said there is no shame in playing on casual. So, that's how I'm going to guess a vast majority of the people did it. But yeah, that there's nothing wrong with that. But where things really took off in this guide is when you get to the actual fortresses. And as you're fighting through these fortresses, there are so many different things that you're going to come in contact with. And once again, as you can see here, you've got all of these different stage layouts, but also along the bottom, you have these really cool hand-drawn art. That is concept art for the game. Oh, God, it's such a gorgeous guide, and how they managed to work all the art in with it is really, really cool. Now, another thing that you will see is situations where you can look in the corner here and you can see, hey, here's the plan that the boss is going to have. Here's what I need to avoid contacting him. So they do a good job of kind of giving you a general idea of, hey, here's what you're going to do for a specific boss. And that was really fun. And again, you get a good idea of what you're facing in every single fortress and what bosses you'll be facing at different points. So that's pretty cool. Now, one thing about this Mega Man game is that they're not shy about throwing lots of challenge levels at you. So there's a ton of additional content in this game. And so what they've done is they've broken down every single challenge that you can do in the game, and it gives you a generalized strategy for facing them, such as okay, so you're doing a time attack. General strategy: sliding is faster than running. Keep a charge shot ready at all times. Use the acid barrier to absorb enemy fire. Things like this that, yeah, they kind of make sense as you do it, but sometimes you might not have picked up on the alternate uses of certain special abilities. So that is very helpful. And then when things get more interesting later on, when you're in the balloon rush, which these are stages where they have a balloon that you literally will bounce on and go from balloon to balloon. These stages are massive. And so this gives you a breakdown of the entire map of every single one of those stages. It's really, really well put together. And it also tells you your rank goals. You'll be gold, silver, bronze, so on. There are, let's see here. There are over 30 pages of balloon maps that they have in this game. So it's really, really done in a way that you're not going to miss anything. Everything is laid out for you up front. And then, I mean, that's really cool. It's really cool. And what I think is, it's really evidence of the fact that they really worked with Capcom on this. They had full access to everything that they would need in order to make this a very comprehensive guide. And then also you have the same thing for the trial maps as well. So, I mean, you beat this game and then there is so much additional game for you that they really go all out in this. And they've done a really amazing job trying to show you everything. Now, another thing, as you loop back around, you'll see the enemy gallery. Now, this enemy gallery is a lot of the stuff that you would have already seen as you encountered them in the different stages. If you're reading through the guide from the beginning of each stage, you know, when it shows, hey, here's the different enemies that you will encounter. So having it all in one place is nice. As well as also they will walk you through every single achievement and trophy. Thank you. There's so many guides that I feel like are losing track of this. So the fact that they break it down, they'll tell you whether it's a hidden trophy or not, and then what the description is and tips for actually getting said trophy or achievement. So that is really cool. Now, what gets interesting then, after all of this, is that, okay, so that's the first 148 pages of this guide. Like, this thing's over 300 pages long. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. And this is where I say, like, it's just as much for people who want to play Mega Man 11 as it is for, like, just fans of the franchise that want to try to get more Mega Man in their life. So what you'll see first is, like, here's a behind the scenes interview that spans several pages. They've got all kinds of different concept art for things that they were trying to accomplish with the characters, what their influences were, things like that. And then you have this really cool breakdown timeline of, hey, here's the history of Mega Man, which has some very notable gaps, such as 2012 to 2018, where there's nothing, not a damn thing. So, I mean, they do a good job of kind of drawing attention to, hey, here's every game that appears in every single year. And then the history lesson starts. And this goes through the entire history of the proper Mega Man franchise. Now, the main focus is on the proper Mega Man games. So there is some attention paid to, you know, Mega Man X and things of that nature. And we'll kind of get to that in a little bit. But the primary focus is on your canonical releases. Now, you also have a look at, hey, here are all the Robot Masters that you're facing. They do this for every single game. So you can see, hey, here are the bosses that you're facing. Once again, amazing art that they have with this. I'm not sure where they got all the art from, whether it's concept art or whether it's something they got from Udon, because I know they have a partnership with them on part of this content, but it's just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous stuff. And then things like this, where it's just, so many cool pieces of art. I'm a sucker for this kind of content. So when I saw it, I was just, I was in love. I was in absolute love. Right here, concept art for sure. I mean, for Pete's sakes, you even have a grid that lays out how everything will look for a character sprite. It's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Really, really cool. So as we work our way through it, then you also will see, hey, here are all the different, this is what I love. Here's the way that we marketed this specific release. And they have this for every single game. Not only do they talk about the bosses and the characters and the inspiration, they also talk about how they marketed each specific game. Like here, here's a Mega Man Needs Your Help. And it's a print ad that they had for brainstorming for Mega Man, where they're helping to, they're soliciting ideas for new bosses. I mean, this kind of crap is really, really super interesting stuff that, otherwise this would be lost to time. And then they also look at spin-offs. So you can see here, hey, here's some Super Adventure Rockman or Mega Man Soccer or Street Fighter Cross Mega Man. And then also, like, they interview people. Like this is with Zhong Yu, who is the creator of Street Fighter Cross Mega Man. And it's interviews with these creators that had these spin-off franchises. And then they talk about Mega Man X. So again, every installment, they get a little bit of attention. However, it doesn't get anywhere near as much love, obviously, as the primary game does. And beyond like a 5-page spread, I believe, and you'll see some of the additional characters, their art, and descriptions of them as they go through. It's pretty limited. And then from there, then you bolt on to, hey, so here's all the spin-off Mega Man X games. Here's the Game Boy installments, things like that. And then, of course, they go into Mega Man Legends. And, of course, my personal favorite, Mega Man Battle Network. Don't ask me to explain why, but I freaking love that series on Game Boy. Ugh, I love it so much. So, I mean, they really do try to cover they run the gamut as far as what you're looking at for Mega Mans. And what's even cool is that they take a look at Mega Man in popular media and how the series has spun off. So you can see, like, here's his appearances in Captain N the Game Masters, or the Mega Man TV series, or the Mega Man NT Warrior, and then also the Archie comic run. So there's a lot of different things going on here. And then when you get to the very end, and again, there's like sketch art and things of that nature. Just amazing. It's a museum of content, an absolute museum. And then at the very end, you have a Udon comic at the very end of the guide that actually you read, inverted, and it covers, I think it's maybe 10 pages, maybe something to that effect, but it's really, really cool. I mean, as a guide itself, if you're just wanting it for the Mega Man guide, you're probably overpaying for it. And I would say maybe go with the e-guide, because I think it's going to be $10. However, if you want it for the historical content in it, if you want it for something that you're going to be able to put on your shelf and display as a fan of Mega Man, something that is a historical reference, even a museum of Mega Man content, this is something that I would qualify as being a must-own. I really do. It's a really well put together book. I love all of the content in it. They really do go above and beyond to try to deliver tons and tons of content beyond that, just what you would find in the game. And I can't remember a guide that I've read that I looked at it and I just went, this is perfect. I love this. I adore this so much. So for that reason, this Mega Man 11 guide is going to be getting a full 5 out of 5. Thank you guys very much for watching, and keep it locked to Strategy Guide Reviews for plenty more guide reviews coming through the end of this year. Take care and have a good day.